Are you a movie buff? Do you love dissecting and analyzing your favorite films? Look no further than the Projection Booth podcast. Join host Mike White and a bevy of guest experts as they explore the history, themes, and legacy of cult classics, obscure gems, and mainstream hits. Join us every week for a unique and engaging look at your favorite movies. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and tune in to the Projection Booth podcast, available on all major podcast platforms.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Good evening, and welcome to Night Gallery.
Thank you, Rod. And I want to welcome everyone to Midnight Viewing, where once a month we talk all about your follow-up to The Twilight Zone, Rod Serling's Night Gallery.
They say it's Rod Serling's Night Gallery, and it isn't really Rod Serling's Night Gallery, it's somebody else's.
Oh, we know. We talk about it a lot. Your curators at Midnight Viewing are the Projection Booth's Mike White.
What can happen to human beings when trust is wiped out by suspicion?
And CultureCast's Chris Stashew.
Small boy encased in a crystal ball.
And I'm Father Malone.
The kind of thing that usually infests nightmares.
Join us monthly at Midnight Viewing, the Night Gallery podcast at weirdingwaymedia.com.
Doesn't remotely belong to me. I have no proprietary interest in that at all.
Weirding Way Media.
Hello, creeps. It's me, John Kassir, the voice of the Cryptkeeper, and you're listening to Chronicles from the Crypt.
Hey everyone, I'm Casualty Chris.
And this is Father Malone.
And we are the hosts of Chronicles from the Crypt, a twice-a-month look at the cult horror anthology series from HBO, Tales from the Crypt, that originally aired from 1989 to 1996.
The show was based off of the 1950s EC Comics series of the same name, along with some of the other EC Comics of the era. Every episode, we'll be taking a look at 2 episodes of the shows, with some of the bonus episodes sprinkled in for good measure, covering some of the movies, other Tales shows, and some tangentially associated shows that bear striking resemblance to Tales.
Yeah, that means we may be talking about a Tales from the Crypt cartoon and a Tales from the Crypt game show, because that was a thing that existed at one point. I don't know why, but it was. So, but before we get to the 2 episodes we're talking about, episode 1 and episode 2 of season 1, Mike, what has your experience been with Tales from the Crypt and EC Comics?
Yeah, well, for me, I kind of got into EC Comics right around 1982. I was about 9 years old. That's when a film called Creepshow came out. That was written by Stephen King and directed by my favorite filmmaker, George Romero. That film was an ode to EC Comics. The film itself was set up as a comic with panels and page turns and 5 separate stories, echoing what had come before in the 1950s with EC Comics. I kind of fell in love with that movie, and then from there, I basically devoured as much of EC Comics as I could get my hands on, which at the time wasn't easy to do. There weren't that many reprints. You had to actually hunt it down, the individual comics, where you could find them, or I actually had a ton of tie-in novels, basically. They used to reprint the entire comics in paperback form.
And let's be honest, it's hard to find them now.
Yeah, I mean, well, honestly, I mean, they did, in the mid-late 90s, they kind of reprinted the entire run in these giant kind of slipcase cover hardbound books. So, I mean, they're out there. You can get them. They're just, they're kind of pricey at this point, although you can find them occasionally online. So I kind of became a voracious reader of them, and I loved them. And from there, those actually led me to, I guess we'll be talking about some of the earlier films in the 70s. Amicus Productions made a Tales from the Crypt movie and a Vault of Horror movie. And that was pretty much it. I mean, other than finding the original comics, you didn't really have any outlet. And then lo and behold, HBO decided to make a full-length series of them, and I was hooked from the very first episode, and here we are today.
Growing up, I wasn't really into horror. I got into horror kind of right when I was in high school, and Tales from the Crypt, like I said, I didn't really grow up with it per se. I mean, I would have been 6 when it ended, so we didn't have HBO when I was growing up either, so... I came to Tales from the Crypt way after it had aired, probably in like 2006, so about a decade after it had aired, and I had all the DVDs. And I remember in college watching all of them on my laptop, sitting in my dorm room at like 2 a.m, not going to class, watching Tales from the Crypt on my laptop. My poor roommate sitting in his bed in the same room because I was in one of those closet-style dorm rooms, and I'm sitting there on my computer watching Tales from the Crypt, and he's trying to get some sleep, and then he scares the shit out of me by sitting up in the middle of the night and starts sleep-talking to me, and it absolutely scares the shit out of me. But that aside, Tales from the Crypt is just one of those things that it's kind of been imprinted on me now, and it's an important show for a lot of reasons. It helped a lot of people's careers. It had a lot of people in the show early on that are big-time names now.
Oh, absolutely.
When we get to those episodes, I mean, one of the episodes down the road has Brad Pitt. Another one's directed by Tom Hanks, and I think another one is directed by Arnold Schwarzenegger as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's a pretty important show. I mean, it's kind of a seminal show of like the late 80s, mid 90s. It's if we talk about HBO now and you've got Game of Thrones and Westworld, this was kind of the Game of Thrones and Westworld of the time. I mean, this was a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, HBO gave us something that was denied the original comics themselves because there was only so far you could take the material. And thank God it was on HBO because they were allowed to indulge in the violence and nudity and language. Game of Thrones is a perfect analogy to it, I think.
Well, and this show also draws from other really important TV shows of the era, namely Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, Night
There have been
Gallery.
a ton of anthology-type series out there, and I got to say, very few of them are consistently good. Obviously, some of the original run of the Twilight Zone in the 60s with Rod Serling at the helm, I have a soft spot in my heart for it. Night Gallery, although I recognize the quality is not really there. Even Romero attempted it with the Tales from the Dark Side series, and that was really hit or miss. But this series was pretty right on. It's a good example of the anthology genre. And while paying homage to some of the greatest comics that were ever written, a series of comics that effectively shut down comics for a while because there was a comics code introduced because of these very comics. So
yeah, which again speaks to the importance of the source material. So we'll let the Cryptkeeper take it from here. We'll let him introduce the first episode of the show. That episode is titled "The Man Who Was Death."
Poor little fellas. When I think of their childhood, all those cute little maggots. Our story is about a man with nobler ambitions. He likes to kill human pests, and he does it in front of an audience. Now that's entertainment. So hang on to your hats, kiddies. This one's a real shocker.
All right, so The Man Who Was Death aired on June 10th, 1989. It is directed by Walter Hill, written by Walter Hill and Robert Renault, and it stars William Sadler and Garrett Graham. Those are the two big standouts, with a couple character actors thrown in for good measure. The plot summary is: after the death penalty is abolished, an executioner continues his former job through freelancing. So I don't think that I'm out of line saying that this is my favorite episode of the show.
I'm 100% with you. This is they really started with the best one. This it was hard to top this one.
Some episodes come close.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, certainly. Because, look, the shows themselves kind of fall into two categories. There's sort of like thrillers with a twist, and then there's sort of like the ones that lean on the supernatural side. Those are like the two sides of the coin for any Tales from the Crypt. And this one is the non-supernatural kind. As such, it is absolutely the best of the thriller episodes. And in most cases better than the supernatural ones as well. My heart belongs to the supernatural episodes. That's kind of why I've read horror comics. But this one is so well made, and this is Walter Hill at the absolute top of his game. Shocking that as a filmmaker of basically sort of macho kind of tough guy kind of characters, that he would understand the source material better than any of his contemporaries who were involved in the series.
And boy, it's kind of disappointing that Walter Hill is kind of not where he used to be now.
When he's good, he's sort of the best action guy out there. Yeah, I mean, of late, I honestly can't point to the last thing. Oh, actually, I can. I know exactly the last thing he did, which was he directed the first episode, the pilot episode of the series Deadwood. He actually won an Emmy for that, and that was real good.
Was The Assignment.
What was The Assignment?
It's a male assassin that's turned into a female assassin by
Wow. My God. Yeah, no, I had no idea. Okay.
Well, it's probably better that you didn't.
Yeah, I know. Well, he's still producing some alien movies, I guess. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. Those are, anyway.
Let's talk a little bit about the episode. So the one thing that stands out for me at the beginning of the episode, right off the bat, John Kassir, who does the intro for our podcast, love the guy to death, love all his work. His version of the Cryptkeeper in that first episode is wildly different from anything you'll ever hear the rest of the show.
Yes. And I believe that's owing to the fact that the puppet that they had for the Cryptkeeper early on, they couldn't articulate the mouth as well.
At all. It looks like a sock puppet.
It does. So he had to kind of slow down his cadence. I got to say, as much as I like the rapid fire thing that he eventually got to, but to me, his delivery in the earlier episodes is a lot creepier than the other ones. It's a lot jokier as the series progresses. But here, it's kind of menacing and weird because he's doing it so slow.
It reminds me a lot, when I was watching it, you know what it reminded me a lot of? Robert Englund's progression as Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, where in that first movie, he is a terrifying nightmare come to life, and by the third or fourth one, I'll say the fourth one, he's just a joke machine. It's fine, that's what the character became, have at it, but that first movie terrifies me, his performance, and that's kind of the same thing here. Kassir's performance is really slow and deliberate and weird, man. So yeah, no, I get where you're coming from with that.
Great graphics. Oh God, just those later Freddy movies. Just at least later Cryptkeeper is still quality.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, what he started out as and what he became, although wildly different, it has a weird consistency to it.
Yeah.
And that owes to the comics as well, where he kind of is a joke machine from the beginning. He's always quick with a pun, and a horrible one at that.
No pun intended. The other thing that, again, right at the top of the episode that really stands out is the episode's music.
Yeah.
The episode's music is awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, Ry Cooder is a blues legend. He's scored many of Walter Hill's movies. And some of my favorite scores of all time, as a matter of fact. He is primarily an electric guitarist. I actually own a lot of his sort of solo work. He's an amazing performer, but there is a lot of that in this. But then there's also a sort of calliope kind of carnival aspect to the music in this, which is equally fantastic. Like, one of my favorite scores of any of the episodes on the show.
Well, and it's the one that feels the most unique. I mean, this is my third time watching the show now. And so I'm like picking up on things I didn't pick up on. And the music again in this episode, it's such a standout. It's amazing. It really, like, the music in this episode helps make the episode.
Definitely. It really sets the tone in an almost sort of counterpoint to the action. It's a little more jaunty than one would have expected for it, but that definitely works in its favor. I mean, this episode, I don't want to just keep heaping praise on it. Nevertheless, like, it's fantastic. And a lot of that owes, I got to say, to the writing. This episode is narrated beginning to end by the lead character. And I tend to zone out in movies when we have characters who are constantly narrating the action, but they break it up in such an interesting way where he is breaking the fourth wall and addressing us from beginning to end, that it becomes not just a voice you're hearing, but he kind of makes you his accomplice with it, which is fantastic.
See, I'm the other way around. I actually really like stuff that has narration. Like, I loved Dexter, first 4 seasons, and that was narration heavy.
True.
So, I mean, there are some things that it doesn't work, cough, cough, Blade Runner, but...
Right. Well, that's a perfect example, because I think more often than not, it's a visual medium. And we need to be seeing rather than hearing. And too often, narration tends to just sort of... it's funny, Hampton Fancher, who was one of the screenwriters of Blade Runner, there was a book about the making of the movie, and he said, more often than not, the camera shows you a red door, and then it's the lead character saying, I'm looking at a red door. Like, yeah, we got it, man. We are too.
Right, yeah. And this episode doesn't have any of that. And again, like you said, not to heap innumerable amounts of praise on this episode, but a lot of it's also lend a lot of the praise to this episode to Bill Sadler's performance.
I don't know that the episode would have worked as half as good as it was if it wasn't his voice and his gaze falling on us, like looking through the camera. This is, I don't know, maybe it's my favorite performance of it. It's so assured, like, he's in the skin of this guy. I believe everything coming out of his mouth, and I want to know more. There's not one word he speaks where I'm not captivated.
Yeah. And I mean, he has these like little weird quips, like at the beginning when they're executing Charlie Ledbetter. He's like, you know what? Now you're going to do the hot squat. It's like, where the fuck are these terms coming from? They seem to be he's just pulling them out of the air, but it doesn't feel like he's trying. This just feels organic and real.
Right, that's a perfect description of it. Organic. Like, too often when you have little weird colloquialisms thrown in, it just feels like the actor doesn't believe it, the writer didn't believe it. It's just like, it's just some 10-cent kind of phrase that they've thrown in because they heard it once in a bar or something. But like every fucking line, I believe that character says on a daily basis. Yeah, like, you're going to do the hot squat. Like, perfect.
And the performance of Bill Sadler in this episode, I'm guaranteed it factored into something we'll be talking about a little later in down the road, the Two-Fisted Tales, which ended up getting absorbed into Tales from the Crypt, where he was the Cryptkeeper character in that kind of abandoned pilot for the show.
Yeah, and which came pretty hot on the heels of this series, right? I think it was like the next year, basically, they did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played a character called Mr. Rush, who effectively just taunted the audience from beginning to end, which was fucking fantastic.
He screams at the audience.
Yeah, man, it's so good.
I didn't like it in that, but I like what he's doing here. He's kind of taunting the audience here too. And the thing is, if you've seen this episode before, you also know that he's kind of matter-of-factly foreshadowing everything that happens to him.
Right.
He's like, sometimes they say their head smokes. His head in the end ends up smoking. He says a couple things. The head smoking, being looked in the eye by the executioner, they're chicken shit and they're trying to get the governor they're convinced the governor's going to call.
Yeah, basically everything he criticizes people for ends up occurring to him at the end.
Yeah, he says he hopes their brain doesn't die when they get shocked the first time, and he's alive the second time they execute him, when they pull the switch again.
So good.
I think there's even a line in the episode when he's standing over the freeway, which one of the best shots in the entire episode. He's standing over the freeway, and he says something to the effect of like, I want the electric chair, or I like the electric chair. And it's like, oh, you're going to get the electric chair by the end of it.
Yeah. Well, other places do it with gas or lethal injection. That ain't the way you kill a man. Got to be the old electric chair for me, and it is.
And so he is the executioner at a prison, and he does his job so well, and then his job gets taken away. And he goes and bitches to the bartender, who is played by none other than fantastic 80s character actor Roy Brocksmith, who is in this episode, along with Robert Windley, who is in this episode. There's an Arnold Schwarzenegger connection there between the two of them. Roy Brocksmith was played, I guess he's like the guy who comes into Arnold Schwarzenegger's dream in Total Recall to stop him from having to be lobotomized. Yeah. And then Robert Windley plays the homophobic biker in this episode, who is Bill Sadler's first victim, who is the biker that Arnold kills in Terminator 2 to take his clothes. I guess he doesn't kill him, but to get his clothes, his bike.
He definitely fucks him up, yeah.
Yeah.
Who is also, I should point out, he was in Near Dark. He was also a biker in Near Dark who is used for to show the newest vampire like how powerful he is. He ends up knocking that guy out. He's a good fucking biker, man. Like I mean,
he's got the biker look.
Total typecasting, I guess, but when it works, it works. I believe that motherfucker.
Well, when you're like one of the more famous, essentially, bikers in film history, I mean, the biker scene in Terminator 2 is pretty, I would say it's pretty well known. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's the guy who puts out the cigar on Schwarzenegger's chest.
Yeah, but they're both great in this episode. I like the noise that Robert Windley makes that they end up inserting into the soundtrack right at the end, where he screams in the courtroom.
Well, he's so happy he's gone up. Yeah, that thing.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they do in this episode that it's kind of disappointing that some of the other directors don't really like flex their creative muscles on some of their episodes.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. One of the things that people don't tend to get is that sometimes less is, in fact, more. This is so straightforward and barrels toward the end that other people are they kind of all base it on the twist, which is a hallmark of Tales from the Crypt. Long before Twilight Zone and Shyamalan, and everyone figured like a twist is like the sort of the gravy on the meal. Yeah, I mean, a twist is fun, no doubt, but if it's just there and it's working towards that, then then that's all you've got. You've basically written a script that will have this like carnival kind of moment, and that's fun and whatever. But that you're going to watch it the one time and not be interested in seeing it again because it was all predicated on that twist. This one has plenty of twists, but it feels like an inevitability to it, which is I think the best of you can say about any piece of fiction. Like, there's no other way it could have ended. Even if that's an obvious ending, as long as it feels like that was supposed to happen, then that's what makes it great. And this one definitely goes in that direction. Walter Hill is a smart enough guy to know that like we can just tell a very simple story. From the outset that he's going to end up in that chair, but it doesn't matter because it is so well written, so well performed, so well directed that it is ultimately the most rewatchable episode of Tales from the Crypt. That character Niles Talbot is so fucking interesting.
Yeah. And it's a good thing, though, that he's only in one episode. I mean, you could have made the case that's like, well, he could have been kind of like executing the other bad characters down the line in the show. That's probably what they would have done if they had made the show now. And that's a whole nother conversation for another episode, the failed reboots of Tales from the Crypt. But it's so good that it's just one.
It's funny, though, that you mentioned the narration in Dexter, because if this isn't the precursor to that, then I don't know what is.
Right.
This is a character who works for law enforcement, works at executing people, who loses his job and just keeps killing bad people. And let's not forget, it's easy to side with this character, to see it through his eyes, because, it isn't like he's just killing random people. He's really killing horrible people that he's sat in on the trial and found out that they've done the wrong thing, and these people are getting off on technicalities in some cases, so he's doing the good work, as it were.
Right, and that's kind of the thing where he's a sympathetic character, unlike... And that's the thing about the first season of Tales from the Crypt, as we go on in these first 3 episodes of Chronicles. The first 6 episodes are all very singular character-centric, and he is probably the most likable of the 6.
Yeah, easily.
Because he's the most kind of sympathetic. He's not killing these people for any selfish reason. He's, well, kind of, but at the same time, it's justifiable.
Right. A lot of the sort of twisty kind of episodes are based on the comeuppance for these horrible people, which that's another hallmark of the Tales from the Crypt. And one of the reasons that it seemed like the comics code, when it came in and shut down the original comics, it didn't seem justified because this wasn't horror for horror's sake. When something comes out of the ground in order to exact a revenge, the revenge is totally justified.
Right.
EC Comics, as a rule, were the most moral of comics I've ever seen in my entire life, where it didn't shy away from the fact that horrible things were happening in the world, but it gave us a sort of justice inherent in them, where the bad people were always punished. And in this case, Niles Talbot gets his comeuppance. You can't go out and just start electrocuting people. That you're going to have to pay.
Well, and you mentioned the comics, so you and I, we're going to actually, best we can find them. We will talk about the comics when we talk about the episode. So you and I both read the comic, The Man Who Was Death. It's pretty close to what they show in the episode. The reason why the death penalty disappears works a lot better in the episode than it does in the comic. In the comic, it's just people stop committing crimes.
Right.
Which is so bizarre. It's either people stop committing crimes or people just stop being found guilty.
Right. And maybe in 1955, I think it was when this comic was published, I don't think they could have seen an end to the death penalty at the time. There's certainly no movement against it, whereas in the, by the mid to late 80s, there was a definite push against it. So it actually makes more sense realistically in this episode than it does in the original comic.
Yeah, and there are other changes, obviously. There's no stripper at the end how he gets caught. There's no stripper. It's just he's tailing a woman in the park, and there's kind of a little bit of irony that the light is the reason he gets caught in the comic, as opposed to in the episode he just gets caught because, I don't know, they never really explain it. It's just kind of just happens. That's one of my only kind of qualms with the episode is the ending in the comic makes more sense because in the episode we never get to see the cops that are looking for him, and in the comic there's a couple panels with the cops who are tailing him and they're investigating him, and one of the cops is it's a man who's doing this. So it kind of makes more sense, but in the episode it's such an abrupt ending that it kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's just it feels like, oh, we ran out of time, gotta end it.
Well, I've heard that criticism of the episode before, and I actually I don't subscribe to it. I like the fact that we never cut away from Niles Talbot. I think we are with him, we're telling his story, and he is. We're just as in the dark as he is as to how they caught him. I think it's easy to extrapolate how that would have happened. The fact is, this one guy keeps showing up at all of these trials, and then that person gets electrocuted, and he was the executioner. It wouldn't be that hard to figure it out.
Right.
So that is to me a quibble, and it doesn't bother me at all. I like the fact that when they burst into the room, we're as shocked as he is, and as bewildered as he is as to how he got caught.
It's minor. Compared to some of the other criticisms of other episodes, this is nothing.
Oh yeah, well, we're going to get into some truly terrible episodes that are just absolute garbage, but this one is in no way that.
Yeah. And again, right at the end of the episode, we get him spouting off one of the best one-liners in, I don't know, ever.
As for strategies of getting in their panties, you just remember the old rule. Treat whores like queens, queens like whores, you'll do just fine.
Yeah, it's so... Again, he's so scummy in a way, but at the same time, not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great line, and I don't know, you want to chalk it up to misogyny or not? It does seem to be true. Just throwing that out there, and because I mentioned this once before, but I actually had an 8x10 of William Sadler in my projection booth at a movie theater I was working in, and I made a little word balloon with that phrase in there, treat horse like queens, queens like horse, and I pasted it on it, and I just so happened to have been showing a movie that William Sadler came to see, and I invited him into the booth, and he was completely tickled that was on there. Like, he in fact called his wife into the room, was like, check it out, this is from Man Who Was Dead, isn't that awesome? So, yeah, that line in particular is a really good line. I've never heard it in any other sort of entertainment either.
For William Sadler kind of roles, since this is unfortunately the only time we're going to get to talk about him in an episode, it's this role, his role as Death in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, and Wild Bill Overbeck in the Disney classic Rocket Man. And those three are like what I remember him from. And like Die Hard 2 a little bit, but I mean, Die Hard 2 is, it has its problems, but
yeah, it does. I actually like Die Hard 2 a lot. I mean, other than if you can set aside the total coincidence that this is occurring again, I think it's a solid movie.
Well, and also with Bill Sadler, let's not forget he was actually president in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, I believe he is. I believe he is still President Ellis in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They haven't changed that at all.
Well, he might not have survived the snap. So.
Oh well, we'll see then. I guess. Yeah, watch it immediately. It is masterful. It is some of the crispest dialogue you will ever hear. It's constructed so fucking phenomenally. I mean, I know I'm just heaping more and more praise on it, but I just adore this episode. If you have 22 minutes or so, like there are a myriad ways that less interesting than you could spending time with this particular episode. Man Who Was Death, it is just an achievement.
So, Mike, would you skip or watch this episode?
I would watch this episode and then I would watch it again.
Yeah, I'm with you. Watch it 100%. It's one of the, if not the best episode of season 1. It's the best episode of season 1, and it's the best episode of the show. There are episodes that come close. But
yeah.
This is the best episode of the show for me.
Yeah, 100%. It's an amazing episode. Watch it immediately.
Let's play an interview that we have actually with Bill Sadler, where I spoke with him about the episode. When we get back, the Cryptkeeper will introduce the next episode, which is And All Through the House.
How did you first get involved with Tales from the Crypt?
Well, it's funny you should ask, because I almost wasn't involved in Tales from the Crypt. Way back when they were getting ready to shoot the pilot episode, the Man Who Was Death, they shot 3 episodes, the first 3 episodes, and mine was the first, The Man Who Was Death. They had me in to read for, I was sort of new, kicking around Los Angeles at the time, and they had me in to read for the cop who comes to arrest Niles Talbot at the end of the show. And I think he has like 2 lines, and he says, Mr. Talbot, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say, it was that. That's all the character was. And I came in and I read for this casting woman named Erin Ray. And when I was finished, I said, what's up with the role of Talbot? And she said, well, they're looking for a name. They're looking for a star. They want, Malkovich or Christopher Lloyd, or, they're going out to stars.
Right.
And I said, oh, and I left. And I left the room, and I left the building, and I'm walking across the parking lot at Fox, where Silver Pictures was, and she stuck her head out the window and yelled, Bill, come back. And I came back in, and she said, listen, come back on here. And she gave me one of the monologues that he does right into the lens, right? One of the stories. She said, here, come back on Monday, grease your hair and black out your teeth or something, and try to look, I guess, don't look as pretty, and I'll put you on tape and I'll show it to him. Well, what can it hurt? And that's what happened. I came back in on Monday. I didn't black out my teeth or anything, but I did the speech right into the lens, talking right to the camera about, I think it was the one about electricity, and I like electricity, and that speech. And Walter Hill, who was directing the episode, said, yeah, there's our Niles. He loved it, so I shot that. And the really amazing thing was that there were 4 producers on the show: Joel Silver, Walter Hill, Dick Donner, and Bob Zemeckis. And after that episode, actually while we were filming that episode, I was approached by Frank Darabont, who directed Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile and The Mist and so on. And I worked with him. The very next thing that I did for Joel Silver was Die Hard 2, which I was the villain in, Colonel Stewart. And I worked with Dick Donner, I worked with Zemeckis, I worked with all of those people again. But it was funny, it was that one little moment in my career that sort of pushed the door open, and all of a sudden I was on the radar for all of these people, for all these directors, and I can trace just about everything I've done in my film career back to that one audition with Karen Ray in Los Angeles on a Friday afternoon. And when I said, "What's up with the?" I wasn't happy reading for this tiny role.
Right.
I said, "What's up with the role of Talbot?" But anyway, that's how I got involved. And I did, since then I did a feature with Walter. That was originally called Looters, but then became Trespass. I worked with I did the Demon Knight, Tales from the Crypt presents Demon Knight. So it was really pretty amazing stroke of luck.
So so it sounds like to some extent that a lot of your luck afterwards came from Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah.
Huh.
I guess that's what I'm saying. Well, it was a really nice audition piece. I mean, he talks right to the lens for the whole 30 minutes and ends up getting killed. And Walter directed it. Walter was writing the episode too. He was making changes and writing as we went along. And he was having so much fun shooting that little episode that I would come in the morning and he'd hand me these great big speeches that he had just written and say, "And read this, Bill." And I'd read it back to him. He said, "That's great. We're going to shoot it in about 20 minutes. And that was sort of how it went.
Huh. Yeah, because it's I enjoy breaking the fourth wall kind of pieces, and that's why I really enjoy the episode is your monologues to the camera, which I think is kind of really one of the best parts of the episode, because a lot of the episodes Tales from the Crypt you don't get to see the character interact with the viewer directly.
With you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, was there anything memorable about working on that first episode, other than it propelling your career?
Yeah, I'd actually spent almost no time in front of a camera before that. I'd done a couple of films, but my career had been on stage before that. Years and years and years of theater in New York, and it was remarkable to work with Walter Hill, because he's a strange actor for directors. He doesn't talk, he doesn't explain a lot, but when he does say something, you listen,
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I realized what a collaboration it could be when you have ideas and he has ideas, and the whole thing becomes sort of a creative dance. You feed off each other's ideas. He would come up with something that he wanted to try, and I would do it and add to it and take the ball and run with it and so on. And at the end of the day, the two of us were just tickled. I think he was having more fun than usual because he had done feature after feature after feature where there were studios involved. He's the giant film crews and working with stars, and this was a little half-hour, TV episode. It was really more like guerrilla filmmaking. He just set the camera up over there, and so there was a lot of collaboration, and it was a great learning experience for me. Walter was a seasoned old pro, and a terrific way to start.
So since you were obviously on the first episode, did you kind of get the feeling when you were on that episode that Tales from the Crypt was going to become kind of a thing? Or was it kind of just...
No.
No?
No, there was no Tales from the Crypt before that. I had no idea. I didn't know. I never saw the Cryptkeeper. I didn't know. It was all new. The whole thing was new. I'd never seen it. No one had ever seen an episode to see what that flavor was, that comic book, sort of that great intro that they did. None of us really knew it. The whole thing was just a great idea, and let's take a shot at it. It was great fun that it became this series that everybody, as it went on through the years, everybody wanted to direct one. Everybody wanted to be in one because they were just so fun,
Yeah.
They take about a week to shoot, and I think they paid me $1,700 for the week. As I look back now, it was a remarkable. I mean, I'm sure it seemed like a ton of money then, but I look back at it now, and it was. There's no other moment that I can point to in my career that sort of got the ball rolling in so many ways.
Right. So, I mean, obviously you're not from the South, but your character in the episode has a very distinct Southern accent. How was that kind of? How hard was that to pull off?
That was pretty easy because I had been on. Well, like I said, I've been doing theater for years and years. I studied it for 6 years in college and graduate school, and I've done dozens and dozens and dozens of plays in New York, and a fair number. I've always been good with accents, playing Irishmen and Russians and Frenchmen and people from all over. I like the whole idea of being able to place your character, in a location. I think he was from Oklahoma. He wasn't exactly from the South, but he wasn't from the North. Like when I just did this was also for HBO, the miniseries The Pacific. I played Chesty Puller, who's from Virginia, and it's one of the great fun things that, for me anyway, it's one of the things that I really enjoy is nailing down the accent and getting so fluid with it. Virginia is a great one because you sort of drop that. Whenever a word ends in an ER, you make it you say a, you say so it's like father, mother, that sort of thing.
Right.
And you kind of widen the eyes, and all of a sudden you're in Virginia, where you could borrow a ladder and go visit your mother. But I haven't, anyways, I always have had fun with accents my whole career, so. And
in that episode, I mean, it's, if I didn't know any better, I would have thought you were from somewhere in the South. Because it's not overdone, I guess, is because that's kind of, the.
Well, that's always the problem. That's the big secret with doing accents is you get so fluid with them, get so comfortable with them that you can underplay them. Because you meet people from the South, and then you'll hear the sound every once in a while. That's the big problem that actors overdo. You find yourself acting the accent instead of acting the scene.
In regards to the way that was versus now, because you're still acting, how does being on Tales from the Crypt compare to current, like filming for current TV shows?
The biggest difference, I would say, between then and now, I'm about to shoot another episode of Madam Secretary, and last year I did Blacklist and Elementary, and so the biggest difference is that there's much less. You have much less wiggle room on the series today. How do I say this? When we did the Tales from the Crypt, when Walter Hill directed me in the very first episode, it was kind of wide open. He was writing it as we went along.
Right.
I mean, there was a script, but he was writing, he was changing things, and he found this actor who could voice his words, and he started writing for that voice. So the whole thing felt like an improv in a way. We'd stop in the middle of, there's a scene where we're on a bridge over a highway, and I give that speech about electricity, I think it is. We didn't have permits. We pulled up in a van in the middle of the evening, jumped out of the van, set up the cameras, and shot it. 1 or 2 takes, and got back in the van. And that would never happen today. It was really sort of like guerrilla filmmaking. The whole thing felt a bit like an improv, except it's an improv with a terrific director and writers and film crews. Everybody's sort of hanging their butts out the window, shooting this thing.
Right.
Throw some lights over here, and we'll grab this scene. And today, on any of these shows that I've guested on, it's a much bigger organism. Everything is planned out. The studios and the networks the script has been locked. If you want to change a word, it has to get okayed back up the chain of command. You have to go through. If you want to change, you can't change big things. You can change a word or two, but it's a process, and lawyers get involved, and it's just a much more planned out. You have a function. You've been hired. I often feel like I'm the plumber, and I've come to fix the sink. So I show up on the set, and they say the sink's over here.
Right.
I know what they want me to do, but the freedom within, there's less freedom. You have a function, and this is how they've planned the scene, and this is how they've written the scene, and this is how they're going to shoot the scene. So you work within that framework and get as crazy as you can, or bring as much creativity as you can. Whereas on the Tales from the Crypt things, even on the movie, I was rewriting stuff. I was driving Joel Silver crazy. I had a fight with him once on the phone about changing lines. But we would come up with ideas. I was always talking to the writers on the Tales from the Crypt movie, and making little changes, making little edits, little alterations, which you couldn't do that today. They wouldn't let you. The networks and the studios would, they've locked this thing and approved it and funded it, and they want you to shoot what they've written, and that's the end of it.
Right. Some of the you've been on some of the biggest shows that are currently on TV as well. So I can imagine it's kind of all on lockdown.
Yeah, there really is a fair amount of lockdowns, and it's often very good. They've planned it and written it, and they want to see it the way that they planned it and wrote it. And I understand that. They're hiring me to be an actor, not a writer. But when the collaboration is available, it's sometimes a really exciting and great thing. And on the Tales from the Crypt episode and the Tales from the Crypt movie, there was a lot of collaboration. There was that whole scene. There's a speech that I give when they say we all get chased up to the top of the hotel, and they say, "God damn it, breaker tight. Tell us what the hell's going on." And I launch into this story about mythology, about the 7 keys to the universe and so on. And that had changed and changed, and it had gotten rewritten in such a way that it didn't make sense to me. And I did a rewrite on it that, I did a rewrite on it. I did a, sort of a smoothing. It was all of their ideas. It was all of their words, except I couldn't say it the way that it was written, and it became one of them. It became a slightly different thing, But there was collaboration. I don't want to take credit for fun ideas, but anyway, that's I would say the biggest difference.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the amount of freedom that you have to play with things.
Right.
If you have a great idea on the set of those shows, you can, if you bring it up with the director, they say, ooh, great, let's give it let's try that. And that just doesn't happen these days.
kiddies. Just your old pal, the Cryptkeeper, having a little holiday fun. Why else would I be in this getup? Unless there was a clause in my contract. In fact, I've got some Christmas goose for you. Goosebumps, that is. Yes, indeedy. A little terror tale chock full of holiday fear. I mean, cheer, of course. So, get a gander of a Yuletide yelp yarn that goes a little something like this. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house.
All right, and now we're going to talk about And All Through the House. The episode aired June 10th, 1989, the same evening as The Man Who Was Death. It's directed by Robert Zemeckis. Yes, that Robert Zemeckis. He actually helped produce the show as well. It's written by Fred Decker, who also wrote Predator. It stars Mary Ellen Trainor and Larry Drake, along with Marshall Bell pulling his best Weekend at Bernie's impersonation. And the synopsis for the episode is: a greedy woman makes the mistake of murdering her husband while an escaped mental patient dressed in a Santa outfit is on the loose. Mike, what did you think of this episode?
This is another one I really enjoy. This is actually one of my favorite comics, and they had adapted this previously when they made the film Tales from the Crypt back in the early 70s. That particular one starred Joan Collins. This one is hard to beat story-wise. I mean, if you want to talk about Man Who Was Death is kind of an anomaly in the Tales from the Crypt sort of EC universe. This is pretty much what you would expect from any one of them. We have a deplorable character who does get their comeuppance at the end. It's an interesting setting, and then it's a Christmas time, and you effectively have Santa Claus attempting to kill your lead character. It is pretty fantastically directed by Zemeckis, and I really like it a lot. I think it's up there. I do think it suffers a bit from the lead performance by Mary Ellen Trainor, who is good in small roles. Watching her try and lead this for the entire episode is a bit of a stacked deck. I know we're not talking about the original movie that I mentioned yet, but there's something that in the comic and in the original one that they did very well, which is they made she effectively kills her husband in order to get the insurance money. And in the original film, they made him the sweetest man on earth. In this one, they have turned him into in two lines of dialogue, a total prick, where you kind of like can side with her. They kind of stacked the deck in her favor. Other than those two things that I have against the episode, I think it's really good. And I think Larry Drake as the deranged man dressed in a Santa Claus outfit is really scary.
I like parts of this episode, but I think overall Mary Ellen Trainor falls really flat. I think her Scream Queen thing that she's going for doesn't work very well. I'm with you. I mean, I think I just made that point. Like, she's not great. Like, she doesn't really, she doesn't engender this kind of sympathy that you got from William Sadler, who is also doing horrible things. Like, she's so shrill in the role that I'm kind of waiting for Santa to kill her. And that's not something you want. Like, you can have an anti-hero who does horrible things, and as long as they're a bit charming, you'll go with them and, follow them to the end. Not only is her performance, like, really shrill, but her character, as written, is a dummy. She kills her husband, and then the first thing she does is get the will and testament and then call her lover and spill that she killed him onto his answering machine. In an affectation that is so hokey, it's beyond hokey.
Yeah, I mean, it is exposition as dialogue, which is the number one crime in films. Like, don't have the character tell us what they're doing. Let's see what they're doing. And, like, completely superfluous. We didn't need it at all. Like, if she's just killing this guy and then we see her with the will, yeehaw, we know what's going on. Don't do that. And it should be noted that the guy that she's calling his answering machine message, I think, is something to the effect of, leave me your name, number, and measurements. Like, okay, so she's killing this guy to get the money to go with obviously a douchebag, and she's doing it in the stupidest way possible.
But he's the Nick monster. That's what.
Oh, the Nick monster. That's right.
Yeah, it's So the thing is with this episode, there seems to be a bit of a disconnect in my mind between why she's doing what she's doing. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the episode, like, I don't know, the juxtaposition with her killing Marshall Bell and then the killer Santa played by Larry Drake coming around the house, there's like a disconnect in a way that the comic plays up way better. Because in the comic, she's like dragging the body around in the house, trying to figure out what she's going to do with it. In the episode, she like drags him outside and then he somehow survives having a ice pick or a fireplace poker driven through his skull.
Well, I kind of like that shock. I like that one moment that, well, I mean, you talk about brain injuries. Who knows if the person's actually dead? They might not be. That was fine as far as I'm concerned. Her plan to throw him into the well, however, negates her plan of him being dead and her collecting the money. Because if he was just a missing person, it's going to take like a year or two for her to collect. Like in the comic and, again, in the sort of Joan Collins original film, she's got a plan and she's affecting it. In fact, in the Joan Collins one, she takes his body and just throws it down the basement stairs. Like, that's what happened. He fell down a flight of stairs. This one, did she have a plan? I don't know. And she goes about it in like a really lame way. I will say, however, yes, these are problems. Nevertheless, once Santa shows up and is menacing her, I think it works really good as a nice sort of a snowy cat and mouse episode.
Yeah, so that's my thing. Like I said, parts of the episode don't work, but parts of it do. I really like you said, Larry Drake is great, but the way that they did it in the comic, I actually liked it a little bit more than in the episode in certain respects. I like what Larry Drake did with his serial killer Santa, but in the comic, you've got this dread of her just looking outside and seeing him.
Yeah.
And then you see him right at the end. The final panel is the final shot of the episode. They're mimicked. And
yes, absolutely.
I think that would have worked better in some respects. I mean, I get why they didn't do it because showing is better than telling.
And they needed 22 minutes. Like the comic is like, it's snap your fingers and it's gone kind of a thing where there's not too much meat to it. So, I mean, they had to add in these other little beats and stuff like, when she has to like go get the gun, which she can't really reach, and she accidentally locks herself in the closet, or like when she's outside. And I actually really like this beat where she has the keys to the house and she drops them onto the stairs and it falls into the snow, and then she discovers that there's actually a knothole underneath the snow and it's fallen all the way through and she can no longer retrieve those. Like those are little moments that I think work. Ultimately, it is. I like it. I think it's a good episode. I think I appreciate what's going on, even though some of the major elements are flawed.
And what I guess the biggest disappointment for me is you've got Robert Zemeckis, who's directing, Fred Decker, who's writing, and this episode isn't like a super standout. It's not like The Man Who Was Death.
They rely a little too much on the setting and the twist of it. I'll definitely give you that. Lately, there have been a lot of like Christmas horror movies. Other than Black Christmas and maybe Silent Night, Deadly Night in the early 80s, like there hadn't been too many takes on that shiny kind of brightly colored holiday and the horrors that can sort of lurk or come loping out of the night for you. And I think this really worked. I mean, I liked it a lot more when I was, 16. I didn't not enjoy it while I was watching it.
Yeah, and again, I think Larry Drake is great, and he's kind of the saving grace of the episode.
Yeah, he's real scary, man.
If you're a fan of the Darkman series, you know that he plays Durant in the Darkman series. He was Dr. Giggles in that movie.
Sure, the eponymous Dr. Giggles.
Yeah, he was a great actor. He's one of the better character actors. Again, I mean, that's the one thing about this show that's very similar to a show like Twilight Zone or even Kolchak, another show that I talk about once a month. They got a lot of really good character actors from the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, it did, and it allowed them to maybe play against type. Like, nobody was going to, I mean, obviously with Larry Drake, they cast him just a couple years later as a psychotic killer, but at the time he was mainly known as basically an autistic character on LA Law. Like, we've gotten to know him only as sort of this gentle giant character. And I think this predates Darkman as well, where he played a villain. Yeah, that's a pretty good hallmark of the series, where they allowed these people to sort of jump in and play and actually sort of expand the public's perception of what they were as performers. I don't think anyone was expecting that performance from that guy when this episode aired.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Again, looking at it now, 2018, different story, but then completely out of the kind of blue for him as an actor.
Yeah, he's real good in the episode. Mary Ellen Trainor, not so good. Should be pointed out that was Robert Zemeckis' wife at the time.
There you go.
Well,
smacks a little bit of Kate Capshaw to me.
A little bit, but you know what? Kate Capshaw is fucking great in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I mean, that character is shrill and awful, but that's what it's supposed to be. So that worked, and I don't necessarily believe in dismissing out of hand like a filmmaker casting their spouse in something, because sometimes it works fucking like gangbusters. Like, I loved Adrienne Barbeau in The Fog and in Escape from New York when she was with John Carpenter. Those are good performances from her.
Emily Blunt in A Quiet Place.
Yeah, she's really good in that movie. Like, why wouldn't he cast her in it? She's a fucking really good actress. In this case, it speaks to Mary Ellen Trainor not being that great, although he put her in smaller roles in a lot of his movies, and she appeared in it should be pointed out that the Tales from the Crypt themselves, this series, like the executive producers behind it were in fact Robert Zemeckis and Walter Hill and Joel Silver, who was like the mega producer in the mid to late 80s. And Joel Silver used her a lot too. She's in all the Lethal Weapon movies. And Richard Donner, that's the other guy who was sort of behind this series. It was nice of him to let her play the role, but it was the wrong way to go. Like Joan Collins in the original one, like Joan Collins is kind of her character is kind of like the bitch character, and we're not supposed to like her. But as horrible as a human being is, who's killing their nice husband in order to get the money, like you're with her in that original take on it, from beginning to end. Like once Santa shows up, I don't care what she's been doing, she as a person draws me in and has that bit of charm that we were sort of discussing, that an anti-hero needs. Mary Ellen Trainor, maybe it's a combination of what we were saying, where the character is so dumb and she's portraying it so shrilly that I can't wait for Santa to put an axe in her head. That is a terrible thing for your lead character, for the audience to want. Nevertheless, there it is.
I agree, 100%. It feels like a missed opportunity for her in the episode. It's just it's very one-dimensional and very flat.
Right. And now, having said that, I do think the direction in the episode is really spot on. Obviously, Robert Zemeckis is a great filmmaker. I don't care what anyone says. When he's on, he's really on. And I thought he was on in this episode. And he indulges in something at the beginning, which I really like that he does in a lot of his movies. And nobody does this as well as him. He'll take a credit sequence where he just pans a room and just showing you the artifacts that people have in their home. He tells you their entire story, which he does at the beginning of this episode. Not to the degree he will in some of his other movies. No one does that better.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, again, I agree with you. Zemeckis is a good film director, so you're not going to get any complaints out of me on that one. So, I mean, come on, Back to the Future, come on.
And he will direct in one of the later episodes, is also one of my favorites. Obviously we'll talk about that when we get it. But so, he had his hand in a couple of other episodes that I thought were a little more assured than this one. But I did like coming off of Man Who Was Death, who, there are horrific elements to it, but it's not a horror tale specifically. I liked this one sort of coming on the heels of it and diving kind of head on into what the horror genre is supposed to be, which is Stephen King always said, you chase a character up a tree and then you start cutting down the tree. Like that, I think this works on that level of horror, and so I would recommend this episode ultimately.
Yeah. I would not.
Oh, snap.
I would say that the Larry Drake stuff is good, but the Mary Ellen Trainor stuff is so
Yeah, it's hard to get past. I know, man.
Yeah, her character is so unredeemable and so boring, unfortunately.
Yeah, okay.
It's just kind of it's a skip. It's a soft skip, but it's not downright atrocious like some of the episodes we're going to watch. Even some of the episodes later this season. So
yeah. Well, we're at odds, my friend.
Right off the bat. There we go.
This episode is not garbage, by the way.
No, it's not. It's not. When we're not doing Chronicles from the Crypt, Mike, where can people find you?
They can find me. I have a YouTube channel called Odd 5 Films, but the series that I do is called You've Never Seen. Basically try and shed a little light on movies that are not as well known as they should be, are worth a second look in some cases, movies that had been popular at one point but have all sort of fallen out of public favor, or, some movies that just are in no way part of the public consciousness. I do that, as I said, on YouTube. Yeah, you can also catch the podcast that I co-host called You've Never Seen as well. I co-host that with the Red Menace, and we both dive into other movies that haven't been covered on the YouTube channel, and then sometimes we cover movies that have and get a little bit more in-depth in them. And we'll also be having guests on our show where they experience those movies for the first time or bring their own that maybe we haven't even seen. So you can check us out on either the YouTube channel or You've Never Seen podcast.
And you can follow me on Twitter at CultureStash. You can check out my, hold on. And if you're looking for something else that I do, I host the CultureCast. It's CultureCast with a K over at culturecast.com. My buddy Eric and I, we talk movies twice a week. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at CultureStash. And if you want to check out the podcast, head on over to chroniclesfromthecrypt.com. Our Twitter handle is also at ChroniclesFTC on Twitter. If you want to follow us there, hit us up, tweet at us, let us know what you think of the episode. We will be back in 2 weeks to talk about the next 2 episodes of Season 1. Those are Episode 3 and 4. Dig That Cat, He's Real Gone, starring none other than Joey Pantoliano, and Only Sin Deep, featuring Leah Thompson doing the worst New York accent any human being has ever attempted in their entire life.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great.
It's really bad. And so get excited for that. And as always, big thanks to Mr. John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper himself, for the intro of the podcast. And we will catch you on the next episode, Boils and Ghouls.